It's okay. I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. And today we've got something really interesting to talk about. Something that I think is worthy of a discussion for a lot of reasons, which I'll go into. It actually has to do with rappers, and the rapper of the game is in some serious legal complications over some accusations made by a woman. It's a big old freaking mess. And before I dig into that, I want to say hello to my special guest today on Dr. Boyce TV from Fly Nubian Queen TV, Miss Taryn Donatian. How you doing today, Taryn?
Hey B, what's up?
Not much, not much. Now it's great to talk to you again. Everybody who's on Instagram, you can't see Taryn, but you'll hear her voice. If you want to actually see Taryn, you can go to drboycetv.com. And I want to say hey to everybody on YouTube, Elizabeth and M Powell and I see Tyrone is in here and Quincy Dansby and everybody else. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about something that has to do with a rapper by the name of The Game. Now, y'all know The Game. You know, this is how we do. I think that's like the last. I feel like that's like the last time he really had a big hit that I can remember. But then again, he's probably had some more since then. But anyway, rapper The Game. A lot of people know who he is. And he's also in this whole reality TV space. And in this reality TV space, he did a show, and I don't know if the show's still on. Maybe Taryn, you can tell me more about it. But the show I think was called She Got Game, and it was one of these love reality shows where all these thirsty ass women compete to try to get access to some dude who probably done has sex with 45,000 women or whatever, but it ain't none of my business. And he got into some real interesting legal complications as a result of that. They ended up with a lawsuit and something that involves $7 million. So in order to get the background on this, Taryn, I know you've been following this whole situation for years. Catch us up, like what's been going on with The Game and why is he having these problems right now?
Oh, this story has been going, well, the whole case has been going on for like 4 years now. This happened back in 2015. She Got Game. It's no longer on that reality show, by the way. She Got Game contestant Priscilla Rainey. She claimed that she was sexually assaulted by The Game. She claimed that he touched her bare vagina and buttocks during like an after hours date. Like they would go on like little dates with each other on the show. Like during an after hours date, she claimed he was drunk and all that stuff. She ended up suing him for $10 million. And she won by default because The Game did not show up to court. He didn't show up to court. He did not respond, anything. So she ended up winning, and he had to pay her $10 million. He never paid. He refused to pay. He always claimed that he was innocent. He said basically she was thirsty. Everybody who watched the show can see she was thirsty. Everyone who was on the show can see she was thirsty. He always said that. He said, I never touched this woman. And he also said something like, and if I did, she would have wanted it because she was so thirsty and throwing it at me all the time, right? So years go by. They said that even though she sued him for $10 million, the judge said that he had to pay her $7 million. He refused to pay. He finally responded like years later after it was announced that he had to pay her. He ended up trying to appeal. The judge tossed that out. He tried to sue Viacom because he was saying, this lady had a long, extensive record. She had a violent past. Y'all look past that. Y'all just wanted ratings. He didn't win that. So basically, that's why now a California federal court has signed off on an order for law enforcement to seize all of his assets to satisfy the $7 million judgment. So that means they're going to go through his bank accounts. That means they're going to try to take his house in Calabasas. He has a real nice house too, boys. I think it's painted all black on the outside. So they coming for him in his bank account because he did not try to defend himself. He did not respond until it was too late. So now they coming for him, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
Okay. So you're saying that now it's got super real, right? It's okay. So let me try to lay this out and understand. I'm talking to Taryn Donatian from Fly Nubian Queen TV. Okay, so let's break this down piece by piece, so we can try to really understand and get to the heart of this. And I think it's an important topic to talk about, not for the juiciness of it, but I don't care about that shit. I'm talking about, like this is real. Like this is real. This is a man who has been working, who's been working as an artist for many, many years. And I guess I assume also as a businessman, who's about to lose pretty much everything.
Yep.
I don't know too many rappers, especially rappers who ain't had hits in a while, who can give away $7 million worth of assets, who can literally give away $7 million worth of assets and still be good. Like I don't know, most rappers I know ain't got $300,000 worth of assets, let alone 7 million. So 7 million is not a joke. That's not a game, no pun intended.
And let me say this too, even though they say that he's worth 22 million, I mean, the game hasn't released an album in a while. They're saying he's going to release one this year. He hasn't toured in a while. And artists make a lot of their money from touring. So, I mean, royalties too, but touring, he has not toured. So I don't know what his money is looking like. And I know damn well, like 7 million, that's going to be a hit. Like you said, he's going to take a hit from that.
Yeah, like that's a lot of money. And so, Taryn, okay, so let's start from the beginning. Okay, so he was sued for 10 million, you said.
Yes.
But they gave him the judgment for 7, or gave her the judgment for 7. What was he being sued for exactly? Like, explain that part. Is he accused of raping her?
No, he's being accused of sexual assault. And let me give you the exact quote in her in the case. She said that one night they went on an after hours date and the game was drunk and on drugs, and that he, quote, forcefully reached his hand inside her dress to rub her bare vagina and buttocks, end quote. That's what she said in her court papers. So that's what he's being accused of.
Okay, so basically, and to use Donald Trump's words, he grabbed her by the pussy, and right, that's what it is, right? And apparently,
Yes.
this alleged pussy grab is going to cost him $7 million. Okay, I think it's interesting. I mean, I've been grabbed, in places I didn't want to be grabbed by women that I did not want to grab me, but I did not know that it was worth $7 million. I have to keep that in mind. So anybody who you get your junk grab, apparently that's like a big payday.
Let me say this though, Listen, I don't think any woman should be touched. If she didn't want to be touched, she should not be touched. I'm not saying that she should have to pay 7 million, but yes, if this did happen, and if this indeed did happen, if he touched her and she didn't want to be touched, he definitely needs to be held accountable. But here's my thing though, boys. Here's what I was hearing back a couple of years ago. Reports were saying that when this alleged incident happened, she continued taping the show. So if a man touched me inappropriately, I'm on a reality show, and the dude touched me inappropriately and I was not into it and I didn't want it, I'm not going to stay there. I'm out. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know.
Hold on, Taryn. Stop it. Wait one goddamn minute. Stop it. You ma'am, are victim blaming. You are not allowed, according to the Me Too rules of white woman etiquette, and she ain't a white woman, but she gets the same benefits because she's attacking a black man. Anybody attacking a black man. You are not allowed to ask any questions of the victim. You are not allowed to talk about the victim's past. You are not allowed to in any way insinuate that the victim played any role in her victimization.
You so shady.
So you're trying to tell me that after this alleged incident happened, after she was traumatized and mortified and just irreparably harmed to the tune of $7 million because of this incident that allegedly happened. I'm gonna ask you more about that in a second. That she continued to want to go to work and be next to this man. She continued to compete on a show where the prize is that this man is going to be your boyfriend, which I assume him being your boyfriend involves some future pussy grabs. So she's applying for additional pussy grabs while at the same time suing because he allegedly touched her in a way that she don't. I'm not going to call it a pussy grab no more. That's kind of mean. But I'm trying to get this. Explain. Tell me more. Give me more so I'm trying to reconcile all of this.
These are what reports said at the time. I don't know if this is true or not, but the report said at the time when this happened, this alleged incident, the date where he allegedly grabbed her bare vagina and buttocks, she continued on working on the show. She continued working on the show after. So that's where I feel like her story's a little fishy. Because like I said, if it were me, And again, shout out to anybody who has ever been victimized. I don't play with that. But in this case, if it were me and if a man touched me inappropriately, the show's over. I'm out. I'm not going to sit around and stay when I feel uncomfortable when you touch me inappropriately. I'm out. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's a little suspect that she stayed afterwards and kept shooting the show. Like, I thought that was a little odd.
That is interesting. That's very odd. Everybody who's on Instagram and YouTube, I want you guys to know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to Taryn Donatien from Fly Nubian Queen TV, and we're talking about the rapper The Game, who is now under the hammer of a $7 million lawsuit. Well, actually, it was a $10 million suit. The judgment against him was $7 million, and the suit just took a heavy turn where the feds now gave permission to federal marshals, to make it real. He can't ignore it. He can't walk away. They're going to go to his house and take all this shit. They're literally going to go in his house, take paintings off the wall, take the Bentleys out the driveway, go into the bank account, empty the bank account. I mean, imagine this. Imagine tomorrow somebody going in and taking every single penny out of your bank account. I mean, that's kind of crazy. Hit the thumbs up button. Everybody who's watching, please stop for 1 second. Please hit the thumbs up button. Hit the thumbs up button. Also, if you want to get a notification when we go live, please text the word voice to 31996. Text voice to 31996. Please hit that thumbs up button so that we can share this conversation. We're elevating the discussion. We're not just talking about the gossipy part. I want to relate this to all of us so we can understand. But first, we got to get the facts. Okay, so let me ask you this about the notorious pussy grab that took place.
Can you stop saying that?
The pussy grab. Okay, all right. With the incident in which The Game allegedly touched her bare vagina and buttocks. So first question I had, okay, was she wearing? It was bare, like when he says to touch the bed, like he reached down in her panties kind of thing, or she just had it hanging out, like, or like what did you mean by touched her bare vagina and buttocks? I'm just curious.
That's a great question. Her quote, according to her quote, it says that he reached inside her dress. So I'm assuming she wore a dress. I don't know if she had underwears on or not, but that's what her quote says. And when you look at the time, when you looked like at all the stories concerning this case, they made sure to keep putting that quote in there. So that's all you would see, that The Game allegedly rubbed her bare vagina and buttocks. So I'm assuming she wore a dress, and I don't know what the case is. But either way, even like I said, even if, like, let's say she was wearing a dress and she didn't have any panties on, that doesn't mean that's an invitation. Again, the reason why I'm side-eyeing her story has nothing to do with any of that. I'm side-eyeing her story because she stayed on after this alleged incident happened. You know what I mean?
Right. And it would be different if it was like a regular job, like say at the post office, where she's like delivering mail, or they both work at the same restaurant. No, she kept a job on a show where she was actively competing for an opportunity to be his girlfriend.
And right? I would think, because some could say, well, maybe she had, she signed a contract. I mean, I would think if someone sexually assaulted you, you could get out of that contract. You know what I'm saying? Like that, you could go home after that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So. Absolutely. Okay, I want to say thank you to Alan Smith. Thank you for your donation. We're looking forward to building with you. I'm gonna give you a shout out on your website because I appreciate that support. Watch Jaro, WATCHJARO. We are Black owned. Good. I want everybody to hear that name. Watch Jaro. All right. So let me. Okay. So let me ask you this other question. This is another important question. So The Game allegedly grabbed her bare, her junk and her stuff. Men got junk. Women have something else. And so let me ask you this: were there witnesses? Were there people that saw this? Was this caught on video? Was there anything to corroborate what she said in the very beginning?
The woman actually, when she went to court for this case, she brought two witnesses in from the show, two contestants who she said were witnesses. She brought them in, so there were witnesses there.
Okay, so she had two witnesses that confirmed that this happened. Okay, and I think that's really interesting. I'm making notes here because I'm trying to organize my thoughts to understand this. Because I'm really trying to think about this. So what would stop me? Like if I just, like Taryn, I want to get access to your millions. Like what would stop me from getting two of my boys? Like let's say, I say, hey Taryn, let's meet for lunch, and I meet you for lunch, and I got two of my boys with me, and I get them to say that Taryn touched my junk against my permission. and I should get $7 million. And they show up in court and they say, yes, Your Honor, we saw it go down. She was all up on his junk. Like, what would stop me from doing that? I'm just asking a rhetorical question.
Nothing can stop you from doing it. You can do that. You can absolutely do that.
Okay, good. I can make a note of that in case I ever run short on money. All right. And okay.
But don't forget you're a black man, so I don't know if it's gonna work for you, bro.
Well, the shit worked for Terry Crews. It should work for all of us. If he can be part of the Me Too movement and he's 6'3", 245 pounds, then shit, we should all join the Me Too movement. Me too, goddammit. All right. So let me jump in and ask this. Okay, so here's the interesting thing about the woman that I was reading a little bit about this case against the game where he was sued. So you're saying that when she filed the lawsuit, this $10 million suit, he didn't exactly make things easy for himself. He actually just kind of blew it off, like just didn't show up to court. Tell me about that.
He did not show up to court. He did not respond to the case. He actually came back and said that he had a bad tooth infection and had to go to the dentist. Homegirl had evidence that he didn't. I think she shared a Snapchat screenshot or something of him at the exact time he was supposed to be in court. Homegirl showed that off in court and was like, no, he was actually here during the time he was supposed to be in court. So they got his ass on that too. So he didn't exactly help himself in this situation. He should have been in court to defend himself, but that's how she won. She won by default because he didn't show up.
Wow. Okay.
And lied about not showing up.
Wow. Okay. So that's lesson number one. If you get food, don't ignore it.
You know what? Over there, right?
If you're sued for any amount of money that matters to you, right? You can't ignore it. Okay. And so she got the default judgment. You said she had 2 witnesses in court. You said that after the alleged incident took place, she still wanted to be his girlfriend.
She stayed on the show, allegedly. I'll say that. Yes, she stayed on the show.
Which would lead us to assume, that they didn't have women on there who didn't want to win the contest. I mean, so she stayed on the show. And here's the interesting thing. And I read some, maybe you know a little bit about this. I read that in her past, and this is actually leading to why the game actually sued Viacom. He's suing Viacom for negligence, saying that this woman was crazy. She was crazy before she got here. You could have found that out. She was crazy on the show. Everybody saw it. And tell me more about that. It seems like she has a checkered past herself in terms of being accused of retaliating against men. I read some of that. I don't know if you know anything about that or not.
I saw a little bit about that. I didn't really dig deep into that, but yes, she does have a violent past and she has a very extensive arrest history. I mean, after the case came out, she had tons of mugshots all over the blogs. So, I mean, she's no angel, but that does not mean, again, I don't know what happened. That doesn't mean that she can't be a victim. But again, I told y'all why I'm side-eyeing the situation. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So her name is Priscilla Rainey, and I'm going to show you all her picture. If you're on drboystv.com, you'll see her picture. Hit the thumbs up button, by the way, wherever you are, Instagram, YouTube, wherever. Please take a second, hit the thumbs up button so more people will see the video. Please also share it. Take the video and share it on your social media. There's a lot to talk about here and a lot to unpack. So here's a picture of Miss Priscilla, and there's a picture of the game in the back looking devastated. This is Miss Priscilla getting, getting her extra fame, I guess, that comes from being on these reality shows. Now here's more something. I don't know if this is a mugshot or not. I'm gonna try to find one of her mugshots. Which I think is relevant, right? Because credibility matters, right? Credibility matters,
Yes, but just because that doesn't mean just because you have mugshots and just because you have a checkered past, that does not mean you can't be a victim of sexual assault. Let me just make that clear, though. I'm just letting you know. It doesn't mean that.
Yeah, it does not mean that you can't be a victim of sexual assault, but it does mean that if you are accusing someone of something, your credibility is affected, right?
True.
If I go into court and I say this and this, like Michael Cohen, when Michael Cohen went in and was talking about Donald Trump, there were people that said, well, look, this guy's a convicted criminal. He's going to say anything in order to get, in order to have a reduced sentence. But we know Trump is a creep too, but still they were creeps together. They were creeping together for a decade.
Facts.
And now one of the creeps wants to tell on the other creep. So you don't know which creep to believe, right? So it becomes a creepy conversation. Now, I did find another picture of her. Let me make sure this is right. Okay, here we go. I don't know if this is a mug shot or what, but this is a picture of her. It looks like she's in
Yeah,
Palm
it
Beach
looks like a
County.
mugshot.
A booking date November 1st, 2011. Battery. Person uses an aggravated. Okay, charge offense. Aggravated battery. Person uses a deadly weapon. Battery. Touch or strike. Damage property. Etc. Okay, so yeah, from what I'd read, she kind of has this thing where she's been a predator toward men, that she's actually attacked men, harmed them in various ways, physically and otherwise. So why is that not worth? Why do we not talk about that? Like when we talk about a woman being a victim, why are we unable as a society to process the mere idea that a woman could actually be a predator too? Like why is that not even something we talk about?
I'm with you on that. That needs to be a conversation. We go very hard about Me Too. We talk about what goes on with women. Yes, there needs to be a conversation about women that do the same to men. I'm absolutely with you on that, 100%. Because it's not fair. That ain't fair. I'm with you on that.
So where does everything stand now? Like, I mean, I know with the lawsuit with Viacom, do you know if Viacom, has Viacom been forced to pay up anything? Are they forced to take any responsibility for this?
The judge took Viacom's side. That case was dismissed. So basically, game is up Schitt's Creek. Like he gonna have to pay the $7 million, and he should have showed up. Like like you just said, like it was reported that this woman is a predator and has done different things like this to men. He should have showed up to court to defend himself at least. He didn't show up. He ignored this, and now he gonna have to pay. He gonna have to pay that $7 million. He's trying to fight it, but yeah, he's gonna have to pay that $7 million as of right now. That's where it stands. Yep.
Interesting. Well, everybody who's watching, one of the things that came to mind for me was and I'm reading an article right here in Vibe that basically says he could lose his proceeds or his profits from apparently he's got a weed business. And also the woman, Priscilla, is accusing him of hiding money. So it seems like she's pretty persistent. They said the blast reports that Rainey sent a subpoena to get financial details on the Compton Rappers company called Trees by Game, LLC. If the court sides in her favor, the money from Game's weed company may get seized. The rapper's assets are outlined in court documents, which includes his $2.1 million Southern California mansion and a fleet of luxury vehicles. Game.
I guess she is persistent because guess what? They already told her that he's gonna have to pay the $7 million, and he was ignoring it. So I guess she is gonna stay on it. She thinks she about to get a payday. So why wouldn't she stay on it? Why wouldn't she be like, oh yeah, check his expenses, check everything out? Because she about to get that money. She about to get paid. Of course she gonna stay on it.
Yeah, well, they said he's brought in about $1 million over the last 2 years from touring and royalties. The lawsuit against Viacom is a $20 million lawsuit in which he's accusing Viacom of not, checking her out to make sure that he would be safe.
Right.
And I think that leads to a few thoughts in terms of not so much, we talk about victim blaming being something that we shouldn't do, right? So with her victim blaming, if she is the victim, it may or may not be appropriate. Well, maybe with him, victim blaming may or may not be appropriate. But what I'm going to do is make the assumption that at the very least, he might be a victim of either her decisions or a victim of his own bad decisions. And so some things that jumped out at me that I picked up on right away was, number one, and because this is important for the brothers who don't assault women. I'm talking to the brothers who are not, you wouldn't rape anybody, you wouldn't assault anybody, you wouldn't inappropriately touch anybody, you wouldn't do anything that makes a woman uncomfortable. I'm talking to guys like that. For guys like that, the first thing that pops off to me is you can't trust a big butt and a smile. I think there are a lot of guys out here that will jump at any jump off, that they see. And what they don't understand is that in the event that it turns out that she is a predator, which is a possibility because she has a history of retaliating against men. She has a history of harming men. Whether she was a victim here or not, she hasn't always been the victim. There's been times in the past where it appears she's been the perpetrator. She's been booked. She's been arrested. All these sorts of things, right? So, the thing is that what the men have to understand is that there are women out here that really look at the male desire for sex as a source of opportunity and vulnerability, right? If you're known as a rapper or a basketball player or just a regular black man, if you're known for liking the jump offs and trusting women because they look good, then there are women out there that peep that out. You know, there are women out there that memorize the salary, just like this lady's going through and digging to find every financial asset this man ever had.
Yep.
They got groupies out there that will go and find out how much your contract is worth, how much of your NFL deal is guaranteed money, how many assets you want to bid on, celebrity net worth, Googling, figuring out what kind of drinks you like, what conversations you like to talk about, how they can get you in that bedroom. So they can get something from you. Now, in some cases, it's something simple, like I just want to get pregnant by a baller. But in other cases, I've even heard of cases where the women carry date rape drugs, and so literally put the man to sleep and set him up like
wow.
Lawrence Taylor, his case. That's what, because somebody called me and gave me the whole detail of how their whole operation ran. And
Get the fuck out of here.
I didn't even believe it. Yeah, I saw the little girl on because she was underage. That was when Lawrence Taylor got to
right.
But she was on sitting next to Gloria Allred. It was so terrible. So, one of her closest friends called me and broke the whole thing down. She said their hustle was they would look for the jump offs. They look for the rappers who had a weakness, and they would basically like set it up where they would meet him. They all had fake IDs, so it didn't matter if you were like, let me see your driver's license. Let me make sure you're 18. That don't mean shit. And they would get him to the hotel room and put a date rape drug in his drink. And when he was passed out, they would take the 15-year-old, put her in the bed with him.
Wow.
Yes. And then when he woke up, they would blackmail him and say, give us $10,000 or we're going to send this picture to the media. We're going to send it to your team and we're going to send it to your wife. And most of the dudes were paid up. So this freaked me out because I was like, wow, there's this whole underworld of treachery and ratchetry and debauchery going on that I didn't even know about, right? And the society doesn't talk about this. So wow. I'm just saying to dudes, like, you got to be careful. So trusting the big button smile will get you in trouble if you're not careful. 2, alcohol, drugs. He's high and drunk. People, when people get high and drunk, they do things they would not normally do. Here's the irony. Here's the contradiction, hypocrisy, if you will, whatever you want to call it, the double-edged sword of alcoholism and drugs and alcohol in this society. If a man, let me reverse that. If a woman gets high and drunk and she does something like she sleeps with a man and whatever, she can go back and say he raped me because I was too drunk to have sex. If a man gets high and drunk, you are responsible for every single thing you do while you're drunk. Like nobody, so the game can't come back and say, well, the only reason I got a little cozy with us because I had a little too much to drink and I was a little high and that's not normally who I am. No, you're going to be held accountable for every single thing you do while you're high and while you're drunk, which is why brothers have to be thoughtful about who you're getting high and who you're getting drunk with. Like we used to have the conversation with women, like don't get drunk unless you're with your girls and somebody's gonna look out for you, blah, 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 blah. Now you gotta have that conversation with men. Like,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Terry.
And I feel like people don't have conversations like that with their sons. Like people don't. I feel like, yes, you're right. They have that conversation with their daughters, but I feel like a lot of people don't have that conversation with their sons. Have you, would you have that conversation? Because I don't know too many parents that, my mother never talked to my brothers about that. No.
Well, the way my dad raised me is we had every conversation that was necessary to keep me. It didn't matter. My dad, he was a cusser. He'd be like, look at that motherfucker over there. He'd be going with some bum and he'd be like, do you want to be like that when you grow up? I'd be like, no. He'd be like, well, then you need to stay away from drugs. So that's what drugs will do that to you. Like he would have those conversations with me. When I went to teach at Syracuse, he said, don't you fuck nothing on that campus. That's exactly how he said, don't you fuck nothing on that campus.
Because you will be accused of rape. Yes.
Not a co-worker.
Yes.
It don't matter how many times she hits on you. Don't you touch no. And you know what happened years later? There was a professor. His name was Adam Banks, and he was the same age as me. We came in at the same time, and he'd been sleeping with a student in his class. And this student, 8 months after they stopped having sex, she filed sexual misconduct charges against him.
Wow.
And I don't even know what it was. I mean, the charges didn't stick. He didn't go to jail. There was no lawsuits filed, none of that stuff to my knowledge, but it didn't matter. The minute he was accused, he was on the news. His mugshot, I think I don't know if they arrested him or not, but some kind of mugshot was out there. You're labeled for life. It doesn't matter if it's true or not at that point. So the thing to me was I saw that and I thought about what my father had said,
Mm.
and so I think at the end of the day, it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary for Black men in that you got to be really careful, especially when you are in a celebrity space or you have a lot of money. When you have money and you're talking about a show like this, now think about the nature of this show. She Got Game. What is that show all about? It's like it's just a repeat of Flavor of Love, right? Where you had all these women competing for that little ugly motherfucker, right? Like, it's literally like, what kind of sick, this twisted ass woman would even want to be on this show? Like, are they really on the show because they really, are lusting after Flavor Flav?
Of course not.
Right. They trying to get famous. They trying to get rich. They trying to get whatever. Well, okay, so maybe the game is not quite a Flavor Flav, but you got to think about the types of people that are going to be attracted. Like most women I know a lot of decent, intelligent, upstanding women. And I can ask, like, I'll ask you, Taryn, if there was a show like She Got Game and you got a chance to go on that show and compete with 20 other chicks for the chance to, sleep with the game, would you go on that show?
Hell no.
Exactly.
Come
Ladies,
on now,
if you're watching, ladies, on video right now, I want you to tell me, if I invited you to be on that show, and let's say we offered you, 50 grand to be on the show, because these reality stars don't get paid shit anyway. They don't make any money. Tell me, ladies, would you appear on a show like that? If I said you can go on a show called She Got Game or Sleep with Dr. Boyce or whatever. Some of y'all crazy now. I ain't asking all that. But seriously, would you go on a show and spend 6 weeks competing for the chance to sleep with a rapper who probably doesn't have sex with 1,000 women, probably doesn't have sex with so many women, they call it Centers for Disease Control on that shit. I mean, that's the other thing too, and I'm not gonna go into that too much, but all hip hop, has become is this like cesspool of like how many women you got with. Women ain't shit, bitches ain't shit, but hoes.
Been like that though. It been like that, yeah.
Right. So the whole culture is just kind of this crazy, nasty culture. So anyway, let me jump back in this. Let me tell everybody what's going on here. We're talking about the rapper The Game. He has been hit with a nasty lawsuit by a woman who was on his show, She Got Game, and basically she's saying that he touched her inappropriately in a date they went on after hours. The judgment was for $7.1 million. He ignored the judgment, and now the feds have stepped in and said that federal marshals now have permission to go to his house and take his shit. Like they can take all his stuff. So it's become super real for him. I'm sure he's losing sleep over this. And who am I talking to? I'm talking to Taryn Donatian from FlyNubianQueenTV.com. So if you want to see Taryn, she's on there pretty much almost every day at FlyNubianQueenTV.com. Take a second, please hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Also, if you want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. Just sign up. There's lots of free stuff. So Taryn, so let me ask you this. Okay, so now, all right, so this lawsuit was filed against The Game. Did this happen during the show? Like, were they still taping the show while she's filing the lawsuit, or did she wait until after the show was over? Like,
she waited till after the show was over.
Oh,
that's wild. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she waited till after the show was over.
And
but again, like I said, she stayed on the show. That's the part, like everything else, you can talk about somebody's past. You can say they were promiscuous. You can say they've been in jail. All that doesn't mean you're not a victim. But the part, like, how the fuck you stay on set after somebody allegedly touches you inappropriately? Like, you're, like they keep saying, your bare vagina. Like, how do you stay around? I don't, that's the part that got me. Like, homegirl, how you stuck around if you was assaulted?
Okay, so
you wanted a bag, allegedly.
So I saw The Game allude to this, and I'm curious about this. So how do you know that she wasn't? Now pay attention. Now she has a history and a track record of retaliating against men. That's one of the things I read, that she has a history of getting pissed off at men and saying, "Oh, I'm gonna make you pay. I'm gonna come get you." Right? Didn't The Game allude to the fact that she was upset because he kicked her off the show?
Yes.
How do we know that this lawsuit wasn't based on retaliation? I mean, if you were really a victim, you would have called yourself a victim from day one. You can't.
And if you were really a victim, you wouldn't have went after money. You would have wanted his ass in jail or something. You know what I mean? You would have really went hard, like, no, he really touched me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Her story is a little funny, but yeah, the game did allude to that because at the time, Amber Rose came out and defended the girl, saying, these are why victims don't come forward because people drag them through the mud and bring up their past. So Game was like, Amber, stay out of this. First of all, second of all, no, homegirl wanted my attention, wanted to be with me. I didn't want her like that, and she said, I'm gonna get you back. So he did. He absolutely said it at the time that yeah, she was mad because I didn't want her and I wasn't choosing her. So that's what he said.
Interesting. Okay, so basically, it's real murky, right?
Very murky.
It almost sounds like it's one of those things where it's a little bit of he said, she said, maybe not so much the actual incident of him touching her, right? She's got two witnesses, which again, even that's shaky if those are like two of her friends or whatever, but it is what it is. But you got this he said, she said thing going on, and you've got two people that don't really have a lot of credibility. And you got one person who's saying, I was victimized by him touching me inappropriately, but even after he touched me, I went and I competed on a show for the chance to be his girlfriend. And then I lost on the show. He told me he did not want me to be his girlfriend. And now I'm filing a lawsuit. So it's almost like one of the, it makes me think about like kind of what a lot of people felt was going on with the Bill Cosby thing, when you had the women that never filed a police report, never told anybody that he did anything, and for years were going to see him, were taking money from him, were bragging to their friends that they knew him, right? And then 30 years later, they're coming back saying, no, actually, this is what happened to me. I was a victim all along, etc. So it almost seems like it's like a type of blackmail against some black males, in the sense that it's like, look, you touched me and it wasn't appropriate, and I can hold that over your head. I know I can get you for this. I can take you down because you're a black man. It's easy for me to take you down if you're a black man. As long as you give me what I want, right? As long as you give me the money I want, as long as you make me your girlfriend, you whatever it is you do, whatever it is you're doing for me, as long as you continue to do that and we're good, then none of this will come out. But the minute that you cross me, I'm gonna take your ass down for some shit that happened in the beginning. Why can't that? Do you think that that's kind of what's going on in some of these cases that we see?
Here's my thing though, right? Because I have heard of situations where people have been sexually harassed or maybe even assaulted by their boss. Like you're in a situation where you're going to work and you're in a very uncomfortable situation and you can't afford to leave your job. So in situations like that, I don't want to like victim blame or shame, because I could kind of understand if you're in that situation, you're like, I can't lose this job. I can't leave. So I'm going to keep going, and but I'm in an uncomfortable situation. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying stuff like that does not happen, but in her case specifically, it's like, yo, you on a reality show, boo. You could easily walk, you know what I mean? You're on a reality show. If it really went down like that, you could have easily left that. So I'm not saying that situations like that don't happen, because situations like that do happen where, you may not be able to leave a situation, or you may feel like, okay, this is very uncomfortable for me, but this is the only way I can see myself getting to a certain level. I know situations like that happens, but in her case, nah, fam. That's really murky. But do you agree? Do you feel like there are situations like that where you could be in an uncomfortable work situation, but you can't really afford to leave? That doesn't mean you're not a victim, though. Like, how do you feel about that, though? Because I feel like you're giving that the side eye.
Well, no. I'm not giving it the side eye. I'm processing this, because I think at the end of the day, most fair people want to be fair about this stuff, right?
Yes.
Most fair people just want the truth to come out. You want the real victims to receive the support they deserve, and you don't want, in the politics of all this, to get caught up in assuming every victim is a liar, right? Because we know that there are some people that do inappropriate things.
Absolutely.
And I would imagine that that's what makes it difficult, though, right? In this case,
yes,
you can imagine a situation where she's like, look, I got to do this reality show. I need the money, and I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to lose my job. And then after the job's over, now I'm going to go file a lawsuit about all the things that happened while I was on the job. You know, and that can be said, but the problem is that there's so many other possibilities, particularly in the past. I mean, this woman
True.
went out of her way. She went out
True.
of her way to make sure that all the things in her past that affect her credibility were not allowed in court. I mean,
Right.
you know, I'm looking here and I'm doing my research. I'm seeing words like prostitute and drug habits and drinking and all this stuff.
How the hell did she even get on the show? I mean, like I said, I know reality TV is messy and shady. I guess they want them kind of crazy people. But damn, how was she even able to get on the show? I see where game was coming from. Like, did y'all screen her? Did y'all screen her ass? Like, how was she able to get on this damn show?
Yeah, like literally here I'm reading on Gossip, and they said basically she's pleading with the judge to not allow any evidence or testimony about her being crazy or filing the lawsuit in an attempt to be famous. Lastly, the woman claims all evidence and information about any prior arrests, talk of her criminal history, so she is a criminal, any criminal convictions, and any possible booking, aka mugshots, be excluded from the upcoming trial. Why would that be excluded? I mean, think about this. Think about that, and I'm actually, I want you to talk about this. But remember, when Bill Cosby was accused by that manly looking woman of touching her boob, right? You know what I'm talking about. Y'all know she looked like a man. Come on now. I don't care. That chick had an Adam's apple like this. Her Adam's apple was like my fist. When that stuff went down, one of the things that they did bring up was, you know, his past, right?
Yes.
These other accusations. Without the past accusations, the current case doesn't get as much weight, right?
Yes.
So they can bring out his past and go and deal with him that way to get the truth out in their minds, right? So why can't you talk about her past? I mean, you know, I'm looking at this lady, and I'm not gonna, you know, I mean, yeah, people can take sexy pictures and do whatever they want, but I mean, when you talk about the word thought, you know, like thirsty thoughts.
Here you go.
Like seriously, like I mean, she's basically parading her sexuality to everybody to try.
But let me say this, boys, there are a lot of thirsty thoughts out there, and there are a lot of thoughts out there. There are a lot of women who do just like that, but that does not mean that you can touch them. Again, I'm not even saying
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Right.
And I think that's, but the thing is that, you know, if you're talking about, you know, like a preponderance of the evidence, and you got two people, both of them known for getting high and drunk, you know, both of them have shady past, you know, both of them have, you know, a he said, she said type situation. How do you know who to believe? How do we know when,
Exactly.
you know, I mean, again, if I'm constant,
But that's probably why, and that's why she probably, I mean, other than the fact that she won by default, but that's why a lot of people who can falsely accuse someone probably can win, because even the game says she didn't provide enough evidence to prove that I did this. So if the details are murky, most of the time they are going to go with the victim, the alleged victim. So that's how you can get away with, you know what I mean? Shit like that.
right. And I think,
Murky.
well, I think at the very least, here's what I think has to be true at the very least. Taryn, I'm talking to Taryn Donatien, by the way, from Fly Nubian Queen. At the very least, there needs to be some sort of a line that's drawn where, you know, some people, you know, just, you do not have the right to act like you're like, Teresa every woman. Like you don't have the right to act like you are just like anybody else, and that anybody could have ended up in that same situation, and anybody could have had that happen to you. I'm sorry, a stripper, video chick, whatever it is, they're not like the regular housewife who's going to work as a secretary.
Yeah, but
Seriously, I mean, you out here in the club showing all kinds of ass, asking for all this attention on a show where you're begging for the chance to go have sex with this man or to date him or whatever it is. That's not the same as the woman who's getting up, going to work every day, who just wants to go and work as she's got a husband, boyfriend, whatever, and she just wants to go make money to feed her kids. Those are two different situations. And I think that there are people who are taking advantage of Amber Rose, for example.
There are people that are taking advantage.
Out here.
There are people that are taking advantage, and those are not the same situations. But either way, it doesn't mean, so just because you're a stripper or a prostitute, that doesn't mean that someone can touch you or someone can rape you. You know, always consent. So, you know, I get what you're saying, but nah.
No, I agree with you 100%, right? It never means anybody can rape you. It never means anybody can rape you. But it also means you don't have the same credibility as the other woman who ain't going into crazy situations, showing as much ass as possible, hoping to get a rapper's attention. Amber Rose does not get the same credibility as the woman who is just going to work every day, who has a different track record. That's what I'm saying. Like, because why? Well, because people don't know. They don't know. They're like, wait a minute. So wait, you had sex with 45 people last month, but then number 46, he took it and he didn't have permission. Okay.
If she said no, right. If she said no.
I agree. He does not have permission to take it, but you need proof. Prove it. Like, you got to prove it. You can't just say it. You can't get this whole honor system, because you're not an honorable person. Seriously, you can't get.
I can't agree with that. I can't agree with that.
Go ahead, give me your take. Go ahead, please.
I can't agree with that. I'm not saying they're the same people. Of course, they're two different people. A housewife is definitely different from a prostitute on 42nd Street in Times Square in New York City. But I still believe that, no means no. I mean, you did say that. No means no.
No always means no. Let me make that clear. Everybody listening, we know no means no. But go ahead, please continue.
But I just can't agree with what you're saying on that. Like, and again, I get what you're saying. Yeah, they're two different people, but still. But I don't know how you weigh that out though in court. I don't know how you weigh that out. But yeah, I don't really agree with that.
Right. Well, here's how I look at it. Look at it like this. Let me flip it so it doesn't sound like it's an argument that could be interpreted as being anti-woman or in a sexist way, or some stupid man just being a mansplaining. Right. I don't want to do that.
That's almost like saying if a woman dresses a certain way and she goes out on the street, she's and then you see another woman that's dressed all covered up. Like, do you look at them differently? You know what I mean? Like,
No, I wouldn't say that. I will say, I do think that practical women I know would say, like, when you out here, whatever you're advertising, the customer's going to show up and try to buy it, right? So that means at the very least, if you are advertising your stuff, you can't get mad at the men who are looking. You can't get mad at the men who might even say, wow, I like what you're showing me, right? But don't. But at the same time, we do know that the smart men know you cannot cross that line, right? We know that you cannot do the whole touchy thing, not allowed, not cool, ever. But here's what I want. Here, let me give you an example. Let me explain this. One time, let me tell you something that happened to me a long time ago, 20 years ago. I had there was a woman that I was dating, and she did something really bad. She stole, when I went to sleep, she stole my credit card, and she spent about $300 on my credit card. Now, at that time, I was a grad student. I was broke as hell. So
$300 was something for you. Like, you needed that $300.
Right.
Wow.
When I found out that she took my $300, and the reason she took my $300 was because she knew that I wasn't interested in seeing her any longer, and she wouldn't have access to my money anymore, which, again, I didn't have no real money. I was just a grad student, but I had more money than most 27-year-olds at the time, right? So let me tell you what happened. So I called the police. And I'm like, look, I was a victim of a crime. I did spend money on this woman before, but in this case, I did not give her permission to take my stuff. She did not have the right to take my credit card, right?
Right.
And here's the thing. So the cop was like, so do you know this woman? I said, yeah, we were dating, kind of messing around. And he's like, okay, so you were sleeping with her? And he's like, so was she a prostitute? I said, no, she wasn't a prostitute, but we were dating each other. Blah, blah. And he's like, okay, so, but you have you ever used the credit card to buy her things in the past? And I was like, yeah, but in this case, I didn't give her permission. And do you know what he did? This wasn't cool, not cool at all. He started laughing at me, because he basically thought I was like a trick, that I was some dude who got her and got jacked, and I'm mad now, right? That wasn't right. But, taking that part out of it, one part he was correct about. He was basically like, Well, you're telling me that you were spending all this money, you were making it rain on her and using the same credit card to buy her stuff. How do we know the difference? He's like, look, I know you might be a victim, but I can't prove it because on one hand, you were using the credit card to buy her things. And now you're saying on, for the first 12 transactions, first 15 transactions, you were buying her stuff and it was cool. But on the 16th transaction, you wasn't allowed to have it. It wasn't, you didn't give her permission, right? So what happens is what I'm saying is I'm not.
But that's fucked up though, because I'm like, he couldn't try to investigate. Fuck that. I don't care if you spent $1,000, $1,200, whatever before. He should have went and looked into what you said. Fuck
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
I don't care how many times you paid for stuff for her. If she stole your money the last time, that's a problem.
Yes. Yes, and you're right about that, right? Like we know fair is fair, and if you really want to look at it fairly and honestly, I was a victim. I got robbed.
Yes.
Right. From their perspective, they're like, we don't know
how do you prove it?
What happened. We don't have no evidence. We can't prove it. We don't know the difference between you spending money on her that you were okay with and money you did spend. Now, here's where I could have made it even more complicated. Let's link this back to me too. Imagine this. Imagine if I went to her and said, you took money off my credit card. You stole from me. And imagine if she was like, yeah, I did, but I won't do it again. I'm really sorry. And let's say that we're like, okay, well, I forgive you. And I start dating her again, right? And we date another 3 years, right? And then 3 years later, she dumps me for another man or whatever it is. I find her giving it up to somebody else, whatever it is, right? And then I call the cops or I go on Twitter and I say, I was a victim. She robbed me 3 years ago.
Well, let me say this, first of all. Let me say this. I don't think somebody stealing $300 is the same thing as being brutally raped or sexually assaulted. There's a lot of psychological and emotional issues that comes with that. Let me say that first. But are you a victim? Hell yeah, you were a victim. But I don't know if I would, like, if it were me.
Well, let's not compare. Right. Let's not compare it to rape. Let's compare it to grabbing a titty or grabbing an ass or whatever, right? Because there's dudes that are being taken down because they grabbed somebody's butt 20 years ago, right? So I don't know what price tag to put on a butt grab, right? We don't know. I've had my ass grabbed. I didn't know my ass was worth $30 million, but shit, I'm gonna remember that next time I get touched.
Well, you need to remember it.
right, exactly. But my point. I want to complete this point here and make it clear.
Right.
If I'd come back years later and said, she robbed me, and let's say it wasn't $300, let's say it was $3,000, let's say it was $30,000, because I'm gonna tell you what, when I didn't have that money, I couldn't pay my rent. That's devastating to be homeless because you can't pay your rent. So it was kind of a big deal for me, right? And maybe it wasn't 300, maybe it was 400 or 500, but it was a lot of money to me. I was psychologically affected by this. And nobody has the right to tell me how traumatized I should be from losing my rent money, right? Nobody has the right to, like, I can't tell a woman, how she should feel about her experience. Can't nobody tell me how I should feel about mine. But if I had come back years later, after dating this woman, hanging out with this woman, being friends with this woman, and said, oh, by the way, she financially raped me 3 or 4 years ago, I would get laughed out of town.
They would tell you to hold that L. They would say, hold that L, sir.
Right. There you go.
First
question they would ask me is, well, why didn't you say something then? That's what they would say.
They would. They would say that. They would say that. But again, too, people always say, rape victims, or well, let me stay within the context. People who have been grabbed or touched inappropriately say, the reason why I didn't tell is because people are going to say, well, why did you wait so long? Why didn't you tell at the time? Some people may say, I didn't even realize, what happened was wrong, or I don't know. There may be reasons why they may not say something, but they would tell you that. I'm not going to sit up here and lie. They would say, okay, sir, hold that L. You should have said something years ago. You're absolutely right.
Yes, absolutely. So everybody who's watching, I'm talking to Taryn Donatian from FlyNewbieandQueenTV.com. Also, please hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't done that yet, make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe button, and all that stuff. Subscribe to Dr. Boyce TV. I want to say hi to everybody on YouTube, everybody on Instagram. Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. We'll talk more. I'll have more to say to you guys on Instagram a little bit later. Taryn, where can people follow you on social media, on Instagram or anywhere else?
On Instagram, I'm at Donna Taryn. That's DONA_TARIN. And on Facebook, I'm at Taryn Donatian.
Okay, DONATIEN. Is that an Italian last name?
No, it's actually French.
French. Okay, okay. Well, you know, Boyce is French. It's French for from the forest.
For real?
Just
I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the name actually came from my great 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 grandfather who got the name from his slave master, right? Whoop-de-doo. I'm so proud of that, right? His life, you know, we black reparations, y'all, ADOS, all that shit, right? We all know what our history looks like. So
Word.
everybody, before we bounce out, please hit that thumbs up button. Before you go, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe button. Also share this video, share the conversation. I think it's important to warn young black men and young black women of the chaos that can occur if you are in situations that are confusing. You know, I taught on college campuses for 25 years. You guys know that. And I had a big fight at Syracuse. I had a big argument with another faculty member. The argument had to do with the fact that I didn't believe that we were doing enough to encourage young people to avoid binge drinking. I said the source of most of your sexual assaults is usually alcohol or drugs. And I said, why are you encouraging these young people to get high and drunk every weekend and act like that's normal? That's a normal part of college life. That ain't normal. They're going to get traumatized. And, you know, some of these girls are going to get raped, and some of these boys are going to do things that are going to put them in prison forever. I just got finished reading about Baylor University. And once it got political and they started cracking down on the university for not pushing forward with sexual assault cases, there were several black men that ended up going to prison in college over sexual assault situations. Now, again, you know, it is what it is. You know, if people commit a crime, they have to pay a price for that. But I really believe that sometimes for young people, that if we warn them about avoiding messy situations, then I think it minimizes their likelihood of becoming victims or making mistakes, right? It minimizes that, right? So stop acting like everybody can get high and drunk and just act a damn fool and everything's gonna be okay. It's not okay. There's people in prison that people got 50 years in prison because of something that happened in a club when everybody was high and drunk and somebody pulled out a gun or whatever. So to me, what I think is just kind of crazy about that whole situation is, you know, I think with the game, if I'd been his older brother, I would have probably said, look, you know, you're famous, you're rich, you know, I know you like the ladies, but not all these ladies are going to have your best interest at heart. Bad things can come out of this. You know, so you got to be careful. You know, don't be running out here getting high and drunk all the time or just trusting every woman that you meet. It can lead to bad outcomes. And definitely don't get to the point where you think you can touch a woman and do whatever you want because you're famous, because now people are filing lawsuits. People are pressing charges. Exactly. Now with her, I would probably tell her, like, look, you run around these rappers, chasing them down, acting like a thirsty thought, showing as much ass as possible so you can compete for the chance to be his girlfriend. Well, if something does happen and the man says, oh, she's thirsty, she wants me, she's a contestant on a show to try to get access to my penis, then sometimes some of these predators or some of these men might say, oh, she's easy, I can have that, right? So if she's my daughter, I would say, look, just kind of know what kind of environment you're walking into. Know that you're not a white woman and you don't want to be a white woman, because white women are raised to believe that you can act any way you want, do whatever the hell you want, and have no accountability for what happens in your life. That you're always the victim no matter what. And I just don't believe that. I believe that there are ways that we as men and women can protect ourselves from these chaotic situations. Because I'll tell you like this, most of the women I know wouldn't have even been in that scenario. They wouldn't have even been on a show where they're getting on their knees begging some rapper for a chance to tickle his testicles. I mean, come on now, seriously. That's just the honest to God truth. That's like keeping it real as opposed to keeping it political. Everybody wants to make this a political conversation. It's not political. It's a practical conversation about protecting yourself and understanding consequences to all your choices. Taryn, I'll let you get the last word. What would you like to say?
You know, I remember back in the day, like, shoot, in my college days, I remember dudes would just be like, they would see a woman that was pissy drunk and thought that was an invitation to sleep with her. Like, I've seen all kinds of situations. And I tell my brothers to this day, like, if there's a woman that's drunk, do not sleep with her. That means no, leave it alone. Because she could say yes, and the next day she could say I was drunk and nah, that didn't happen. Like, you know, he raped me. So yes, like if you are with a woman who is super drunk, nah, leave that alone. Because I've seen that happen a lot as well. I've seen stuff like that happen, and it's real out here.
Yes, so, it's very real, you know, and I think, you know, a lot of times with cases like this, all I want is the truth, right? Like if somebody really did take something against somebody's will or whatever, I think that truth means that, you know, that there's some sort of evidence or proof that something happened, so you can make sure you're incarcerating the right person and not an innocent person. Because let's just be clear.
But what if there is no evidence? Like in her case, what if there is no evidence? Like what if?
Right. If there is no evidence, it becomes one of those situations like it's almost like one time when I was going to go visit a certain part of a city in a foreign country, and the State Department let us know. They said if you go into that section of the city, you're going at your own risk. We can't protect you. We can't protect you if you go into that part of town. You know, and so we knew going in that if something was to happen to us, there may not be the justice that we deserve, because the police were not around. There'd be nobody there to help us. So we avoided that part of the city because we didn't want to be in a situation where we couldn't get the justice that we deserve, the protection that we needed. So I think that, you know, if you really want to be for real in terms of preparing and teaching young people about, you know, about sex and going into the bedroom with somebody, going up in some man or some woman's hotel room at 3 o'clock in the morning, they should know, like, you're entering at your own risk. You know, and like because there's a point where it's like, yeah, it would be perfect if we could get proof and evidence every time somebody assaulted another person. But when two drunk ass people go to a hotel room, don't nobody know what happened. Right. Everything becomes he said, she said. In fact, half the damn time, neither one of them halfway remember what happened that night. Right. So at that point, when you're making the critical decision of whether or not you're going to send somebody to prison for 25 years, where they're going to be raped about 1,000 times, right? Let's be clear about that. A lot of Black men are raped in prison right now, and some of them are innocent, right? So you're making the weighty decision. Do I send this person to prison for 25 years and subject them to 1,000 sexual assaults? Not one touching of the vagina. I'm talking about 1,000 rapes. Like, you need proof before you do that. You cannot, as much sympathy as you might have for the alleged victim, as much as you want to root for them and help them and everything else, you have to say to them, look, I'm sorry. You need to give me proof before I send somebody to their death, which is pretty much what happens. A lot of those guys go to prison, they get raped, and they catch AIDS and they die. No, nobody talks about that. So I'm not trying to say that rape isn't bad. I'm just trying to say that there are levels to this shit, and nobody wants to talk about those levels because don't nobody care about what happens to some of these Black men when they get falsely accused. Nobody's talking about any of that.
And that needs to be a part of the conversation as well. Like you said, you know, everyone's talking about Me Too. This needs to be a conversation as well. And I'm glad you are always on this. I'm glad you're always talking about stuff like this, because you always do. And people do not talk about this enough.
Yeah. Well, you know, so somebody needs to talk about it. But just so you know, I ain't vouching for whatever Game did or did not do. I don't know this dude. Like I said, I'm telling you, if I talk to either one of them, I'd probably have some thoughts for either one of them on, like, look, y'all need to just stay away from each other. Like, take your thirsty ass home, take your fast ass and get off his damn show where you up here competing to try to sit next to this guy who allegedly is assaulting you, right? And I would tell Game, like, stop running to the club, getting high and drunk, and chasing after every big button of smile you see. Like, seriously, that's what I would probably say. But then again, I sound old fashioned. Don't nobody want to listen to me. All the time people want to talk to people like me is after the shit done hit the fan and somebody's life is ruined. And then they're like, oh, Dr. Boyce, woe was me. And I'm like, nah, man, you made that choice. Just like my dad said, when I went to that campus, Syracuse, my dad said, don't you fuck nothing on that campus. What he was saying to me is, enter the vagina at your own risk. Right? He was basically saying there's a point where if you make certain decisions, put yourself in certain situations, there's a point where I can't really help you no more. And he was a cop. He's like, there's a point I can't help you anymore. If you get a false accusation or whatever it is, I can't help you anymore. So avoid the situation. So if it's okay for my father to say that to me as a man, why is it not okay for me to say that to a woman? Why is it not okay for mothers to say that to their daughters?
My mom definitely said that to me growing up. I mean, honestly, I didn't start drinking until 30. I'm 37 now. Like, I didn't drink during my 20s. I'm very much a control freak. So I would go out with my friends, and I would always be like scanning the crowd, watching everything. My friends would get drunk and be sloppy drunk, and I'd be like, no, let me keep my eye on everything. Because I was always aware of things like that. Not to say that can't happen, even if you're not drunk. Not to say that doesn't happen. But yeah, I was always super aware. I don't dress a certain way. But again, that doesn't mean that just because someone's dressed a certain way doesn't mean that they're not a victim. But again, my mother did have that conversation with me. Like, when you go out, don't get pissy drunk, because you don't know if you do drink, make sure you have your glass, because somebody could slip something in your drink. And we were a lot of women are being told that. Absolutely. Like, that is definitely a conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's a good conversation. And I don't think it's a matter of telling somebody what they can and can't do.
Right.
It's a matter of talking about the realities of the world. And I want to make this, just reiterate, as a man, I have to say this 1,000 times. We know it's not cool to touch somebody against their will. We know it's not cool to assault somebody sexually, no matter what they're wearing or how they behave or whatever it is. But we also know about real life and how the real world works. Like, somebody made a comment where they said that, stop saying that the Me Too movement is about attacking men. It's about empowering women. Yeah, it started off as a movement to empower women. Back when Tarana Burke used to talk about young Black girls being assaulted, in our neighborhoods, the R. Kelly victims, stuff like that. Then that's when it was about empowering the women. But then the white women took over, and it actually became a weapon in which you got to the point where anybody could say anything about anybody and destroy that person. And that at that point, you're no longer a victim. You become a terrorist at that point. You become a predator. And because you can't tell me that, if you looked at even in the Bill Cosby case, when you looked at the history of some of the women that were jumping on the bandwagon, it was clear some of them were drug addicts trying to get money. Some of them had hung out with him for years. It doesn't mean Bill Cosby's innocent. We know he's not innocent. But some of them are almost as dirty as him, So it's just like, okay, you had two dirty ass people that went in the room. One of them comes, Michael Cohen and Donald Trump walk into a bar. Which motherfucker is the dirtiest lowlife between the two? One of these lying lowlifes comes out and says, he's a lowlife. I'm a victim. I'm a good person. He's a bad person. Give me a fucking break. Both Cohen and Trump were a couple of crooks, right? So same thing with Cosby. Some of the women that he hung out with, you kicking it at the Playboy Mansion together. Both of y'all are a couple of wild people that got into a wild situation, and now you're asking us to decide which one of you is the good guy, which one of you is the bad guy, and regular people can't understand any of that shit. It's
still hard for me. That's still situations like that. That's still a little murky for me, because it's like, yeah, you could have a crazy ass background. You could be a whatever, but that doesn't mean you're not a victim. That doesn't mean, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you want somebody to touch you. I get what you're saying, that it's hard to prove that, but that it's hard for me, because to me, that is a little murky. It doesn't mean that,
let's just make this clear though. We agree 100% on the point you made.
Right.
That does not, you could be wild and crazy and thotty and alcoholic, drug addict, criminal, and that does not mean that you can't be a victim, right? We both agree on that 100%. I'm not talking about that concept in itself. Like, we know you could be a victim, but in the court of law,
how do you prove that?
We're supposed to know that beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right. I get it. How do you prove
like for example, I could be a woman underneath this, right? I could actually have, boobs and a vagina and nobody knows. But what's the likelihood of that occurring? And what's the likelihood of you believing that without me presenting evidence? I would have to present some sort of evidence to you that shows, yeah, actually, voice is really Joyce. I'm really a woman, y'all, right? I'd have to prove that. I can't just say, well, that's a possibility. That just because I can walk right here like a man and I got a deep voice, that don't mean I can't be a woman. I could be anything, but I have to prove it. And that's where the Me Too movement gets lost, is they believe that you're supposed to take what people say at face value without considering the history of that person and whatever. And that's just not the case. I think fair people are just saying, show us all the evidence, show us the proof, give us the history on both people so we can manage, understand the credibility, like the Jussie Smollett situation. Who's the victim? Who's the perpetrator? Did Jussie set it up? Did those African dudes set it up? Did like all of that, right? So it's like that. People have to be able to sort, and I don't think that it lets people sort, because what happens is the Me Too movement has claimed the mantle of victimhood. They claim the mantle of truth and honesty and integrity, and that means anybody they aim their laser at must automatically be a bad person. And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you get predators and liars that will hide in the Me Too movement and say, oh, me too, y'all, me too. Really, they're like, oh, I'm going to use this Me Too movement to get revenge on that motherfucker because he didn't give me my money. That's what's going on.
I feel you on that. It's just hard for me. Like I said, certain things are kind of murky, but yes, I agree with you as far as like, yeah, it is hard to prove certain things, without evidence. It is hard. So, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, thank you very much, Taryn. It was great talking to you. Everybody, I'm talking to Taryn Donatian from FlyNubianQueenTV.com. So if you want to check her out on a regular basis, please go to FlyNubianQueenTV.com or follow Fly Nubian Queen on Instagram and stuff like that. Also, her Instagram page is Donna underscore Taryn, right?
Yes, DONA_TARIN.
There we go. So go to Donna underscore Taryn, and she has all kinds of interesting stuff that she talks about. And also, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. Please hit the thumbs up button before you go. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button and hit the share button on this video. And last but not least, if you want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, please go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. And some of you asked about this shirt, supporting Black business. You know that's what we believe in. If you want to check out shirts like this, you can actually go to drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. We have books and t-shirts and all kinds of stuff that will let you celebrate your Blackness out loud and be unapologetic with it. And because that's what I believe in. It is what it is. So thank you very much, Taryn. It was awesome talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, this is so much fun. So
Yes.
I'll see you guys later. Have a good day, and we'll be back soon. Bye-bye now.
Bye.